Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. On this video we try to see operating system service or tasks of operating system. If you are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Before we see the basic service or tasks of operating system, let's revise what it means. Operating system or OS is a collection of software that manage hardware resource. The common hardware resource or hardware component that operating system manages. For instance, there is cell phone, laptop and desktop computer. Operating system manage all those hardware resources: hard disk, motherboard, keyboard, RAM, central processing unit, power supply, printer, network interface card. All those hardware resources managed and controlled by operating system. Operating system provides a various service to the user. User interface. User interface means that the interaction between the user or we and computer. It provides a service in order to interact the computer for each user. We call it user interface. And also it manages the file. This file may be a text, audio, video or any other ones. Secure the system. Printing, error handling if there is an error, process scheduling, one task, start, execute, terminate, design, and it provides a service for another task or process. This scheduling or deadlock is supported by operating system. Process management and multimedia support. As you know, multimedia, it is the communication to another user or external world with audio, video, text, graphic design, game or any other one. We call it multimedia. This multimedia support because of operating system, right? These are the common service to the user that provided by operating system. Basic services or tasks of operating system we categorize into 9 categories. The first service of operating system, program development. Program development means that creating application program or websites with the programmer. This programmer, in order to develop a program, it needs a debugger and editor. For instance, in order to write C++ programming, we need a code block editor, Dev, Sublime Text or Visual Studio. It provides an editor and a debugger. In order to write C++ programming, we need editor, code block. So this editor application provided by operating system and debugger, if there is any error that help to fix, we need a debugger. That's a built-in software. The programmer is a person who develop application program. We call it programmer in creating program. For instance, as you have seen on here, there is one programmer. He developed a program with the support of editor and debugger. This is the basic and the common service of operating system, which is program development. The second service or tasks of operating system, program execution. After the programmer programs or write some instruction or codes, he needs to execute or run, right? This also provided by operating system or the tasks of operating system. The following tasks need to perform to execute a program. The first one, instruction or the commands that the programmer write as a program, and also the data must be loaded into the main memory. The second one, input output device and file must be initialized. It must be assigned and it must be active, right? In order to take an input from the external world, we need an input device, and also in order to show the result as output to the user after it executes, we need an output device. And also in order to access or fetch an instruction from the memory, which is a file, this must be initialized or assigned or identified, and it must be active. The third one, operating system handle also these duties for the user. All those responsibility handled by operating system for the user. In order to execute an instruction or run an instruction, this is the common pattern how it works. For instance, if the programmer write a program or develop an application program with C language or C software, and his file name is sample, because of the program that he uses C, the file extension is .c, and this program written with editor, for instance CodeBlock or Visual Studio. This program is a high-level language, which means that it's understandable by human, but the compiler or the computer, it doesn't understand this high-level language, so it must be translated to low-level or object code, right? So we need a software, we call it compiler. Compiler is a built-in software that helps to translate this source file to object file, because the computer or the machine does not directly execute this source file. First of all, it must be translated to object file, machine understandable. Compiler translate this source file to object file. If there is an error, come back again to the editor and fix or handle or debug that error. In order to transfer or convert this source file to object file, you may use a shortcut, which is Alt plus F9. If there is no error, the compiler directly translate or convert this high-level language or source file to object file. After it translates to object file or machine language, the file extension .obj. Then there is another software, which is the linker. This linker links or combine object file with header file. Header file is a predefined function or a preprocessor directive or library module. Finally, it produces an executable file. This executable file is a machine file or the patterns of zeros and ones. This executable file feed to the central processing unit or CPU. We call it processor. This processor, with the support of arithmetic and logic unit, it executes and transforms to an output unit, right? It produces sensible information or it produces an output. You can use Alt plus F5 shortcut, and also in order to feed this executable file, which is .exe, to the central processing unit, you can use Ctrl plus F9. Finally, it produces an output with user screen. The process of converting this source file to executable file, all this process, we call it compilation. This compilation means that transform high-level language to executable machine language or low-level language. The software that converts this source file to object file, we call it a compiler. This is the common and second service of operating system, which is program execution. The third one, access to input-output device or resource allocation. A running program may require an input-output. For instance, in order to run or execute a program, maybe it take an input from external world with input device and also to produce an output or to display the result to external world, it uses an output device, which may involve the file. If it is a file, it directly extracts information from memory. Because of those parameters, which is efficiency and protection, user cannot control input-output device directly. In order to control input-output device, we need operating system. This operating system control input-output device and provide to a program as per a requirement. For instance, as you have seen on here, there is a resource. In order to allocate each for user this resource as per requirement, operating system control and allocate or share these resources. The fourth one, memory management. This is another service or tasks of operating system. Manage the memory. Operating system manage memory hierarchy. For instance, we categorize the memory in hierarchically a register. It's one part of central processing unit. Between central processing unit and main memory, there is a cache. This cache is categorized into three basic parts: cache 1, cache 2, and cache 3. And there is a main memory and the last one, which is secondary storage or hard disk. All are the storage or memory, right? So operating system manages those memory hierarchy. Memory hierarchy considers one is the speed, The second one is the storage capacity. For instance, a register have high speed but storage capacity is very small. Hard disk or secondary storage device, it store large or complicated data permanently, but in order to access or extract information or to save any information or data to this secondary storage or hard disk, it is slow. From a register to secondary storage, the access time or the speed is decline and the storage capacity is increase. And also from secondary storage to a register, the speed is increase, the storage capacity is decrease. This is memory hierarchy. This memory hierarchy is controlled and managed by operating system. Operating system keep a track which part of memory in use and which one is free. It allocate a program when they need or they require. For instance, there is a RAM on here. From this RAM or memory, this part is used by process 1. And if there is another program that wanted to use this RAM, which is P2, it directly allocate this space to P2, right? So, as you have seen on here, this one is allocated to P2. And also it deallocates the memory when the program finishes the execution. For instance, P1 finishes its execution, it deallocated by operating system or remove from this memory, as you have seen on here. This process is controlled by operating system. The fifth service or tasks of operating system controlled access to a file. Each user, in order to access a file, it controlled by operating system. In case of file access, operating system provides a directory hierarchy for easy access and manage of the file. Directory hierarchy means that it indicates it is unique path where it found. Operating system provides this directory hierarchy because of two things. One is in order to access easy. The second one, to manage a file. Operating system provides various file handling command. These various file handling command using which user can easily read, write or modify of a file. There is one website. Under this website, there is application 2, application 3. For instance, if you take this path or this directory, on this directory also there is page1.html, page 2 and media. Under media, there is another directory, picture 1, picture 2. So, it gives this directory hierarchy in order to easily access and also manage of the file. The sixth one, which is communication. Communication means exchanging of information or data between user to user, user to computer or computer to computer. One process execute or do multiple tasks at a time, we call it multitasking. So in multitasking environment, the process need to communicate with each other to exchange their information. Each process or central processing unit need to communicate each other to exchange their information. So operating system perform the communication among various type of process. This process indicates central processing unit. So it helps to communicate various processes in the form of shared memory or one memory. They shared each other. For instance, there is a sender and there is a receiver. This sender, first of all, it plan when it sends, what it sends, which communication channel it selects. We call it plan, right? And encode. Encode means that there is an original data. This original data, it must be transformed to transmittable signal. It may be transformed to electromagnetic signal, or it may be transformed to radio wave or any other ones. And also it compresses data as well as adding an error handling mechanism. All this one, we call it encodes or encoder. And then finally, it transmits this message with this communication channel. This communication channel have a noise or a barrier to communicate. It may be a cloud, it may be a rare, it may be the communication channel device performance by itself, it may be a mountain, or it may be a building. By any other means, there is a noise or a barrier to a communication between the sender and the receiver. Then this receiver receive this message that's sent by a sender. Then it decode means just a recover to the original message, because this message or data transform to electromagnetic wave, microwave, or by any means it transform to the transmittable signal. This transmittable signal, it must be converted to original data at the receiver in order to understand, then interpret the message, and finally it gives a feedback about the communication to the sender. All in this we call it communication. So this communication is controlled by operating system or the service or the tasks of operating system, right? In order to smoothly and effectively communicate one to another. The seventh one, error detection and response. First of all, detect there is an error when one computer operates different tasks, and after it detects, it takes an action. We call it a response. An error may occur in central processing unit, or it may be an input-output device, or in memory hardware. The following are the major activity of an operating system in order to handle those errors that happened by central processing unit, input-output device, or it may be memory, or it may be even different from this one. So operating system firstly constantly check for possible error, and then after it constantly check for possible error, take appropriate action to ensure it correctly and consistently computing. For instance, there is a printer in our computer, and if we give a command in order to print or in order to convert soft copy to hard copy, the printer says not ready. Or if you have seen such type of command prompt in our computer, there is an error, right? So the operating system constantly check if the hardware fail or the driver fail, what is the basic cause why this printer is not working, and it take an appropriate action accordingly, right? So if there is a command such like that one, there is an error, so it take an appropriate action. This is the service or the tasks of operating system. The eighth one, accounting, which means that just it's a responsibility, right? Keep a track of which user are using how much resource and what kind of the computer resource by itself. Identify the type of resource each user that use and how much. It's a content, right? Can be used for accounting and simply for accumulating usage statistics in order to analyze the statistics, right? This usage statistics is used to reconfigure the system. This reconfiguration of the system help to improve computing services. There is 6 user. This 6 user uses this resource. This resource contain different type, so each user may not use the same resource. So operating system identify what this user uses from this resource and how much, right? And also it check what he uses from this resource and how much. That is, we call it accounting. This is another tasks or service of operating system for the user. The last one, protection and security. Protection involves ensuring that all access to the system resource is controlled. Each user access the resource. During this accessing of this resource, operating system must be controlled. We call it protection. To make a system secure, for the concept of security, the user need to authenticate himself or herself to the system. It may be use a password, or it may be use a file permission, right? there is a prerequisite or some questions in order to use some file. We call it file permission, or it may be used user authentication. We call it protection and security. As you have seen on here, this resource, hardware and software resource, is secure and it's protected. This is all about operating system services or tasks of operating system. And again, if you are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget like, share and subscribe. If you have any comment, question and suggestion, please write on the comment section. Thank you. Bye bye.